The side plate field fillet welded moment frame connection debuted in 2009 and proved to be much more cost-effective with even better performance than the original side plate configuration. Using the side plate system speeds up the steel fabrication and erection processes and reduces the overall cost of construction. With the side plate system, as with all other structural systems, the field erection process begins by first confirming that the anchor bolts and elevations are set correctly, then erecting a series of moment frame columns. Side plate columns are typically 2 stories, but can be either 1 or 3 stories as well, depending on the project-specific design requirements. The columns arrive at the site with the side plates and top supporting deck angles already attached to the column. In addition, a temporary construction aid has been welded on the top edge of the side plates at the shop in order to maintain the required clear distance at the bottom edge of the side plates, which allows the installation of the moment frame beam. Using industry standard techniques such as a lifting lug or a pair of chokers as shown here, lift the column from the ground and into position. A column will typically have either 1 or 2 moment frame beams framing into the side plate connection, referred to as a one-sided or a two-sided side plate connection. Care should be given to one-sided connections and properly rigging the column, as the center of gravity will be slightly off from the column's center line. It should be noted that column splices are specified by the engineer of record. Moment frame beams have a top and bottom cover plate and a pair of vertical angles. The top cover plate is typically detailed to be 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch narrower than the column flange width for ease of beam installation, whereas the bottom cover plate is typically detailed to be wider than the column flange width and the side plate thicknesses. 1 or more beams can be lifted into position. Depending on project conditions, typically 1 connector at each end of the beam will receive the beam, or in some cases, both connectors will be at one end. The connectors will guide the beam up in between the side plates. A properly shop-installed temporary construction aid at the top of the side plates is what makes it possible for a smooth beam installation. Next, quickly install 2 of the bolts at each end prior to releasing the crane. With moment frame columns and beams installed, the next step is to stuff all of the remaining A325 bolts through the horizontal short-slotted holes in the vertical angle and the oversized holes in the side plate, one of them being a standard hole. The number of bolts required at each end is typically dependent on the weight of the beam, with most projects using 6 bolts per beam end. The temporary construction aid at the top of the side plates should be removed at this stage. Care should be taken when removing this top construction aid, as it is under load holding the side plates apart. A cut like this through the construction aid will allow the load to disperse evenly. Once the building is plumb, the bolts are now ready to be tightened. These erection bolts also act as a clamp to effectively close any root gap that might have existed between the interior face of the side plates and the longitudinal edges of the top cover plate. Emphasis should be given to the bottom cover plate and bringing it into a snug fit with the bottom edges of the side plates. Note that the top of steel is set by this interface. To complete the field assembly, 4 horizontal fillet welds joining the side plates to the cover plates are then deposited in the horizontal welding position, and 2 vertical single-pass fillet welds joining the side plates to the vertical angles are deposited in the vertical welding position. The field fillet welding of a side plate connection is now complete, and decking can be fully installed. Note that the side plate weld holdbacks are independent of the protected zones, and in many conditions, side plate connection welds will be welded into the protected zones. To preclude concrete from flowing through the beam to column gap when pouring the floor, the general contractor will typically install a light gauge metal strip across the gap and spot weld in the middle third section of the plate. For projects that require fireproofing, standard sprayed-on fire-resistant material shall be applied to side plate connections. The contractor should install some type of backing, such as a light gauge metal strip as previously discussed, or some wire mesh as shown here on the bottom cover plate to the column flange, or use a layering technique with the spray-on fireproofing material to span over and cover this beam column separation. The thickness shall be just like that of a pipe or tube column section with a constant wall thickness using the thickness of the side plate. Once the fireproofing material has been applied, the general contractor should come back and mark the protected zones so that all other disciplines are aware. Thank you for your interest in the side plate field fillet welded moment connection. We hope that this short video has been of help to you and look forward to working with you on your next steel project.